Never in a million years did I think I was actually going to enjoy teaching recorder, but thankfully, something big changed my first year of teaching.
You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarvin, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Hello and welcome back to That Music Podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing one of the biggest revelations that I had very early on in my career that really changed the way I view the recorder. Let's be honest, you either love it or hate it. Rarely is there an in between of the recorder. And I'm going to be here saying, if you don't teach recorder, that's totally okay. I'm not over here saying if you don't teach recorder, you're a bad teacher. But what I will say is I see so much value in the recorder. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to go about what I thought recorder would be in my classroom. And then the switch that happened that made me realize that it could be so much more. So, first of all, I really love the recorder for a lot of reasons. One, they are incredibly affordable. And also the fact that I'm able to give every single one of my students a recorder that they get to keep forever is a big deal for me. I, you know, I think that music is so accessible in so many ways, but oftentimes there's a financial barrier. A guitar is a couple $100, to have. And especially with the students that I teach, w- a lot of them likely don't have any instruments at home. But what I love about it is, especially with my administration, is, if students aren't able to buy a recorder, we buy one for them. So everybody gets a recorder. They get to choose the color. They get that, it is theirs forever. And that is like by far like the biggest reason why I like it, because they get to have it forever and they get to have ownership on what their instrument is. But there are also so many wonderful musical and non-musical skills that come with learning the recorder. First, perseverance. Like, let's be honest, the recorder is not an easy thing to learn. There's a lot of different skills that are layered on top of each other. But the biggest reason that I have loved seeing it is it puts everyone on, everyone's starting from scratch. Some of the students that have really flourished the most with recorder are students that in fourth grade are our lowest readers. And what I love about this is that I see them realize that nobody knows how to do this yet. You know, Especially when you're in fourth grade and you can't really read very well, you've been spending years knowing that you read at a lower level than everyone else. You've spent years knowing that everyone else seems to get it before you do. And for the first time, everyone is on the level playing field. The students that I've seen flourish the most with Recorder are those that take that understanding of we're all learning this and they use that as a catalyst to really dive in deep. So let's talk a little bit about what I thought Recorder was and then go into what Recorder can be. So I had experienced Recorder a couple different ways in my field placements and student teaching, but they were more or less what I would kind of refer to as like a beginning band mindset. And again, this is not me throwing shade at beginning band, I promise. But essentially, we stopped doing the general music stuff. We would get out chairs and music stands and we would play recorder. We would go from one page to the next, and that was kind of it. And I really did not enjoy it. Part of it is I didn't know at the time, but I do now. I have sensory processing disorder, so and I didn't have earplugs, so that wasn't a thing that I really learned until later. But that's a whole other bag of worms. But I also just felt like that wasn't the most engaging thing. It felt weird to stop doing the really high engagement stuff that we've been doing and kind of move into this different mindset. So that really didn't sit well with me when I went into teaching recorder for the first time. I just felt like there had to be a better way. I didn't really know. I didn't really go out looking for it. I knew that there had to be something better out there. Thankfully, um, I believe it was David Rao that it first introduced me to the AOSA, the American Orff Schoolwork Association's video library. So if you're a member of AOSA at the national level, you get access to essentially a bunch of recordings from their national conferences for like a long time. There's a lot of videos there. And I found a recording of someone leading a workshop on the recorder, and I loved it. I felt like everything that I couldn't have found it if I wanted to. I wouldn't have known what to Google. I wouldn't have known how to put it into words. But once I saw it, I was like, yes, that is what I want. This is highly engaging. This is the recorder. It's using the recorder as another tool, another form of musicality rather than this is now recorder time. It's more of, hey, we are going to explore all the same stuff that we've been doing with music and with singing and with dancing and with movement. We're just going to use the recorder as a tool. And that completely blew my mind. It was so cool to be able to say, oh, we can still play games, except instead of playing singing games, we're going to have the recorders. So we're going to have the kids doing G and E, and we're playing a game like that. And the whole point of the game is for them to practice using both hands and going from G to E, but they're doing it in a game. That blew my mind because that's how I teach everything else. So why would I change the way that I taught the recorder to not echo that? And the way that I saw it, where you could just layer on these skills, ever so slightly, layer them on top of each other, and do it so in a creative way that is allowing the kids to explore what musicality looks like on a recorder, on that instrument, rather than their voice or on a percussion instrument. It just really resonated with me with how easy it was, but also with how engaging it was. So, what does it look like to do recorder, quote unquote, the Orff way? And I'll be the first one to tell you that I do not have any formal Orff training. I have just emulated a lot of what I've seen of how the recorder is added into a music setting. Once I started looking at the recorder as kind of like, all right, this is a new voice rather than this is an instrument, that's when things got really easy for me. So, in my classroom, I teach Sol and Mi first. Um, but I know there are a lot of people that teach Mi Re Do first. With that being said, I also know that if I were to teach older beginners, I would do Mi Re Do first because of the song repertoire that's out there. So guess what I teach first on recorder for my upper elementary kiddos? Mi Re Do, BAG. And the reason I do this is one, it's easy. One, one, two, one, two, three. But there's also a lot of repertoire that they know that has Mi, Re, and Do. Now, I know there are a lot of people that also will do the G and the E, the Sol Mi, or somehow doing a Sol Mi on the recorder first. I like BAG. I've tried it both ways. I actually did a 1 year where I did one class one way and one the other just to see which one I like better. I don't recommend doing that. But I stuck with Mi, Re, Do just because of the repertoire that's out there. And being able to allow the kids to use any of the games that we had done essentially that involved singing, but you replace it with the recorder. So we might do a game where somebody closes their eyes and I hide something, and instead of singing, "I have the bone" or whatever, I'm making something up apparently, they would play BAG and they would point to where they heard the sound, or they would try to figure out, which person made the mistake or which person played the poison note. All these different activities, all these different games, all these different ways of singing that we've learned over the years, applying that to the recorder was such a simple transition because it didn't have to be a complete gear shift. We're just using it in a different way. It's kind of like when you're driving in a car and you cross the Canadian border from the United States and Canada. Where am I going with this? Bear with me. So, your car is always going to go the same speed, but when you're in Canada, you're going to need to know how many kilometers per hour you're going. And when you're in the United States, you're going to need to know how many miles per hour. It's still the same speed. We're just measuring it in a different way. And it's kind of the same way with the recorder and our voice. I know this is a little bit of a convoluted metaphor, but I'm going to roll with it because I like it. But essentially, we're just using things in the different way, but still using the same different instruments, the same different games, the same activities that the students are used to. So that way, the only new thing is the recorder. we're not doing a new song and the recorder and the fingering and reading on the staff and all these things all at once that are brand new at the same time. We're slowly scaffolding them up to add a new thing. With that being said, I do not have my kids read off the staff first. I have my kids play first because, as you have probably figured out, I am very much so Kodai based. And I believe, as Kodai did, that we should do sound before symbol. We should get the kids from the known to the unknown. So the known is, here's what we can do. We have a song, we can play it. Now let's figure it out how we can write that. Now, I'm not saying I don't teach the staff. We've been doing staff for years, but I don't teach. When I first introduce the recorder, I introduce it without any notation. It's just echoing, doing that rote stuff that we do. And then eventually we start scaffolding it in, adding more, making it more and more and more difficult, but we're doing it in a way that is understanding of where the kids are. So while this might not be the most Orpheus way to do recorder, I hope that you've been able to if you feel like they're like I did, that there just has to be a better way for the recorder. I hope this has helped you gain some new ideas, or at least see it through a different lens, because I truly believe that the recorder is one of the coolest things that we teach. I think that a lot of the reason why teachers hate it and kids sometimes hate it and parents sometimes hate it is that we don't really know what to do a lot of the time, and we're kind of making it up, and it isn't necessarily tracking. So there's just a lot of room to grow. So my challenge to you is this: if you are one of those people who are really anti-recorder, I would challenge you to give it another shot. I would challenge you to at least think it through, what it would look like to shift the way you do the recorder to be more closely aligned to what is happening in the rest of the classroom in the rest of the year. If you are someone who does do recorder, try something new. If you're an AOSA member, go into the video library. There's a ridiculous amount of recorder stuff. Look at the different activities, the different composition to things, the games, and try one of those things and see what happens. If you're one of those people that kind of do the sit and play thing with the recorder, get them up and moving, have them moving around the room, have them show the melodic contour with their bodies as they play it. Whatever, it might look loosey-goosey, it might be an absolute mess, but give it a shot. Try something new and let the kids play and explore music in a way that just happens to be through a recorder. If you enjoyed this week's episode of That Music Podcast, it would mean the world to us if you would leave a review wherever you're listening. Not only does that help us understand which episodes are resonating with you most, but it also really helps us really grow the podcast because it gets it in front of new people, but also it helps me feel like I'm not just here talking to my basement alone, and that there are actually people out there that are getting some value out of the episodes. As always, you can reach out to us, hello@thatmusicteacher.com, if you ever want to continue the discussion or ask some questions. And in case nobody has told you lately, thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that you teach.